But those stark statistics really reveal why we are in this state of perma-crisis.
It is. And, I mean, it's not... The NHS is not alone in its collapse, is it? All our public services seem to be either non-functioning or completely functionless. Sorry, that's probably a bit harsh, but you know what I'm saying. And I think that's what it is. We've got an economy that is seriously challenged by the form of governance that we've been experiencing for the last 27 years, which is basically borrow, tax and spend. A bigger, greater interference by government in everything that we do in the economic ecosystem. And ultimately that leads to no growth, which is what we've now got. Growth per capita reducing because we've obviously got lots of people coming to the country. And of course that burdens the NHS as well. We've just got a complete breakdown in public sector services. Of course, the NHS has the added problem of ever better treatments, ever more expensive treatments, a failure of the social services, as you indicated, taking the elderly out of beds when they shouldn't be in hospitals, hospitals being used as a place to park people as opposed to treat them. So you've got a massive number of different issues all coming together, I think, to nobble the NHS. And I'll just say one statistic, which you didn't mention, which I think is remarkable, is that it's a constitutional aim of the NHS to treat people, 92% of people within 18 weeks of them being registered. And there are more than 3 million people in the UK that breach that constitutional aim. Yeah. It's a disaster.
Yeah. And one of the reasons for this is funding. And, of course, I'm not going to put words into Ben's mouth, but people on the right often say we're just pouring more and more money into the NHS, which is true, but we still spend far less per capita on health in this country than other countries where they have a mixed system, where they have some private funding as well.
Well, let's go back to the 18-week figure. We achieved 18-week maximum waiting times when Labour was last in office. It's risen dramatically during the 14 years. It has,
but we've also got 3.5 million more over 65 since then, which is a big factor that all countries are facing.
With investment and reform, you can make a difference. And, you know, the budget announcement, and there was lots of criticism about some taxes going up on businesses. Actually, it delivered 22 billion extra for the National Health Service, the best settlement since 2010, but also reform, greater use of the private sector, surgical treatment hubs within the community. Coming back to the figure of beds, the reason we've got such a small number of beds is there has been a settled consensus within the National Health Service for over a generation that it's not the number of beds that you have, but it's their efficiency. However, I'm really struck by the contrast with Europe. I mean, you know, 160,000 NHS beds in the UK, 229,000 in France. Yeah. I think that needs to be looked at. But one other thing that troubles me about this and I say this gently, this government is rightly committed to prioritising relatively primary care in the community. I think, and you know, this was from the figures were from the Royal College of Nursing. I think there's a lobbying job going on to relatively protect hospitals as opposed to the primary care system, and I don't think that's in the patient interest.
Yes, but you could prevent people from going to hospitals in the first place.
Absolutely, that would be the best bang for your buck.
Coming back to the funding, you've mentioned the government has poured more money into NHS. I personally think Wes Streeting is one of the ablest ministers they've got, and you know, I support what he's trying to do. But again, looking at the funding, I think in the UK, we spend about $5,000 per capita on health. Germany is $8,000. We are 18th in the list of countries. And isn't the problem that even if you can scrape a few more billions off the taxpayer, if it's only the taxpayer that's going to fund the NHS, we are never going to achieve that level of funding. Isn't it time for some form of insurance model or privatisation on top of taxpayer contributions?
Well, Miriam, I respect your view, but that's not where the vast bulk of the British people are.